Okay, so today I'm going to show you the ReadyMotion interface and how to use it. So first things first, the ReadyMotion interface isn't an actual software that you install on your computer. The ReadyMotion interface is actually built into the ReadyMotion controller itself, which is a big benefit if you are using multiple operating systems. Say you wanted one day you're using a Macintosh and you wanted to connect into the controller, you can do that. Then the next day you were using a Windows computer, connect into the controller, you can do that. The following day Linux, you can do that. All you need is a web browser. For ReadyMotion, we kind of built it around Google Chrome, so we have Google Chrome up, but any web browser will work. Same with web browsers on your phone or tablets, all that works as well. The only thing is the ReadyMotion controller needs to be connected to your network, either wirelessly or by Ethernet. And when you actually buy the controller, it has a Wi-Fi dongle that it comes with and an Ethernet port, so you do not have to buy any of that stuff. It's already built right in. So what we'll do is make sure we're on the network, which our Wi-Fi is on the network, and I will type in an IP address and connect to the ReadyMotion. For this ReadyMotion controller we're going to use, I'm going to type in 192.168.1.25, and that will bring me to the ReadyMotion interface. Okay, so here is the ReadyMotion user interface. I will do a quick scroll down here so you could see everything that's entailed, and then we'll kind of go into more in depth. I'll actually open up a sample program just so you could see the 3D rendering, which is right here, and an advanced motion tab, which brings up even more. So there's kind of a quick scroll down of everything. So now I will go ahead and kind of get started and show you around this user interface. We'll start from the top and kind of work our way down. So first things first, over here, this gray box. This gray box is your controller's basically readout. So when you type Gcode in, you will see your Gcode command you sent and the response from the controller. If you don't see a response, there's obviously something wrong. If you do see a response, that means everything's going good. If you type in a command that it doesn't know, it'll definitely tell you. Alrighty, so let's start from the top and kind of work our way down. First things first will be number of cycles. The cycle number is actually saved on the controller itself, so that way if your operator in the back is connected to this IP address and is running everything, the number of cycles is obviously going to go up every time they run their program. Now if you're in your main office and you want to log into this controller, you would type in the IP address and it will come up and tell you actually the number of cycles, machine position, working position, and it's going to give you the feedback from the program right here. You'll be able to see all that. And you can have as many users as you want logged into the controller. It really doesn't matter. Another thing with number of cycles is, say you want to see hourly output. So right now our number of cycles is 66. Our operators or you can clear the counter by just clicking this button, and the number of cycles is cleared. The number of cycles uses the M2 command. So at the bottom of your programs, you always want to type in M2. So basically, I could just make a test program here. Getting a little off topic here, but we're kind of at the text box editor just to show you the number of cycles. So I'm just going to say testing, and you can see the highlighting is highlighting comments. Any parentheses, the text will be blue. Now I'm going to type in a Gcode. Alrighty, so now I will send this program, and you can see the number of cycles went to 1. The reason I went to 1 is because it saw this program end and it saw the M2 command. So then it would add the number of cycles. If I send the program again, the number of cycles went to 2, send it again, and I could clear the counter again. One thing is now if I refresh my browser, my number of cycles will always go back to 2, my machine positions will always reload, everything will always show back up again, except for your program. That way if you have multiple users logged in, the main program will always be on the operator's computer. Alrighty, so that'll be number of cycles. Next, we'll kind of mess with this reset button. A lot of times, especially with lasers or CNCs, if you want to do a soft reset without actually killing power, you're going to want to shut off your coolants or your spindle controls, anything like that. There's a couple ways to do it. You could always go down to your advanced motion control and just say all coolant off or laser spindle off, and it'll send those Gcode commands. But what I could do is put them up here, and then when I hit this reset button, it's going to send those 2 commands and then send the soft reset, which comes in a lot of handy. You could also type in, if you want your axes to go somewhere, and reset it, and it'll type in where you want your axes to go when it does do the soft reset. And you could see that my X is at 10 on my working position. If say my reset was at X0, I hit my reset, you'll see my X is going back down to 0. Next is Cut. It's just a program you can use to do SVG files to Gcode, which is this right here. I could load up an SVG file, which, let's say this guy here, and convert it to Gcode. I won't really get into this. We have other videos about Cut. Next is the enable button. If you don't want to use the user interface and you have an electrical box somewhere with physical buttons, you don't have to actually use this user interface to control anything. You could use the physical buttons. You then have a help button up here, which will populate in the feedback here, and you could see everything here. You also have a settings button. You could click the settings button and you could see all the settings that your controller is set to. Like my step pulse is 10 U seconds. My step resolution on my X is at 209. My feed rates are 2500 and so forth. Alright, so that'll be everything for this top button up here. Going down, this will be the controller I am connected to. I then also have macros over here. This macro is a really good tool to have because they save by program. So if I open up a sample program here, you'll see all my macros loaded up. So that way, when I want to turn on, say, a laser, I need to turn on a relay to send 24 volts to the laser. So I can just click that macro, and I know 24 volts is on that laser. Then I can send this macro and it'll turn a red light on the laser for basically centering your laser however you want to do it. I could then turn on and off my housekeeping and off my red light. I can also, if I'm changing scaling, I have a scaling shortcut basically here too, and I could put that in if I wanted to. I could send that if I want to. It's just real helpful to have. Next, as I go down, is basically just a terminal writer. I could just type random Gcode commands in here, like G01, X5, Y5, Z5, feed rate of 2000. Go ahead and send it. That Gcode goes away. You can see all that text went away, but it sent the Gcode to the terminal, and my feedback is okay. Where my macros, everything stays, which makes it pretty nice. Going down here, we could go to our program editor, which is real nice for making programs if you are not using a Gcode converter or a SVG to Gcode converter. The first one will be the parentheses. If you do parentheses around text, it'll turn blue. Any system settings that start with a money sign will be black. And I'll kind of give you an example of each of these. So I did parentheses around that and the text turned blue. You could also see that the lines are highlighted wherever my cursor is, and there are line numbers. I'll show you the money sign. We'll say that there, everything's black. Just makes it real nice so your eyes can go to where you want. Any spindle or laser commands are red, any output commands are green. And you can kind of see it's just real nice to be able to scroll down and you can kind of see everything real fast instead of seeing a whole bunch of code that's all one color. I really don't like doing that. And you can see like here it's turning on an air solenoid, it's turning on a power controller for a laser, it's turning my PWM on at S1000, which would be max. Alright, and then over here we have a G92 command. This G92 will actually reset all your axes to 0. Especially when you're just setting up different things, it's good to just have a G92 command. I know a lot of people don't like using it, and they like using the G10 command to just set offsets. And you can also do that in your advanced motion control, which we will get to in just a little bit. Alright, so scrolling down a little bit more, we have our jog settings. So jog settings and convert measurements. Jog settings are basically where you can pick a predefined feed rate, or you could type in your own. And then you can also do a distance. If you would like, you can convert stuff, as the Ready Motion uses millimeters to run everything. If you're measuring in inches and something, you need to adjust something, say 5 thousandths, you could type that in, get the actual what the millimeters are going to be, copy that, go to your jog settings, type that in your distance, and then jog whichever axis needs it. If it's your Z, your Y, your A, your B, your C, your D, or your E. There's 8 axes, and you can see they all are running pretty good. You can see all the displays right there. We've went over the clear counter number, which will clear that counter. There's also a clear program button, so I could just clear that program out, so then I could type my own stuff if I want to. There is a pause, which then I could pause my program. So let's see if we could do this here. Guess I don't really need a feed right there. I'm going to send a delay command, so that way it's going to run this command here, then it's going to wait until this command's over before it issues that one, so I can pause the controller. Let me put my M2 command actually at the bottom. Go ahead and send that, and I pause the program. So basically, until I unpause this, it will not go any further. You can see my X did go to the 5, and I have 2 lines of Gcode left, which would be these 2. I could either clear this queue, and now there's 0 lines, or what I could do is let me send the program again, because I cleared that queue. So I paused it, my X is going back to 5. I'm going to go ahead and unpause it, and you'll see this 2 will eventually go to 0. There you go, there's 0 commands left in the queue. I can also then open programs, open whatever program I'd like. I can save the program, so say I wanted to save this hello program, I can save it however I want. And of course send program, which sends this whole program to the controller. There is also 3D rendering. When I do open up my programs, it'll also do 3D rendering at the same time. The sample program I did load up was to drill four holes in some metal. So there it is. Basically it's going to start, go over here, start in the center, work its way out, and make a circle. Now let's go to the advanced motion control. If you do have one of our limit boards, you can home the machine, which mine is not set up right now, so this is probably going to throw an error. And so now I need to unlock the machine. So I went ahead and unlocked it. You can turn on Miss Coolant. The Miss Coolant does use standard Gcode, so there's M7. Full Coolant, of course M8, and all Coolant off, M9. Those are all just standard Gcode numbers. We also have laser spindle on, clockwise and counterclockwise, and laser spindle off. Again, those all use the standard Gcode commands. Alrighty, next would be your G92 commands. Basically, instead of zeroing the machine right here, where this one will zero your whole machine, G92X all the way through, all your axes are zeroed. Right here you can actually send a G92 command per axis. So I can see my X, and I don't want it to be 0, I want my X to be 10. Send that position, my X becomes 10, and there it is. Same thing, I can make it 0, set position, it goes to 0. Most people though will use a G10 command, which they can go on the default, which is 1, and hit X0, Y0. We'll just do 4 of them, set the offset there. It will then set the offset, which puts all these guys at 0. Then what I could do is, I want to also though, I'm going to clear this out, and I'm going to set the offset for 6, and this will be X 100, Y 100, Z 100, A 100, and I'm going to say set the offset. So there it set the offset, but hey, my motors did not move. The reason why is because I have not activated the offset P6. It'll always work on P1, but it won't work on P6 unless you activate anything except the default. So what I would have to do is say set the preset offset. It'll send this G59 command, which now all those axes are at 100. Now what I could do is clear this preset, go G54, set that preset, and hey, they're all back at, they all went to 0. So that's a pretty smooth tool to use when you have different fixturing on your CNCs. You can just set a preset and go to it. Next is, of course, output control. If you want output 1 on, just flip that switch, it'll turn it on. Same with 2, 3, 4, and you could have multiple ones on at one time. And you can see we just set a whole lot of Gcode commands without having to type them. Down here we just have some arc tolerances and junctions, which are in your settings. If I scroll up here, you got those settings right here. You can change those if you want, and it'll change them in the system. All these settings are stored in memory, so if you shut off the machine, they'll all be stored. If we go over to this side, you can see you could set your steps or your stepper resolution for all 8 of your axes. So X should actually be 5. If I send that Gcode command, and then I click on settings, my steps now on my X are 5. You could set your acceleration for each of your steppers. You could set your max feed rate for each of them, your max travel. You can invert your step enable. You could set your stepper pulse delay, so when the controller pulses to your steppers, you could change that if you need to. You could change an idle, which will idle your steppers before sending a command. You can again invert your stepping pins. You can also invert your direction pins. You can enable your soft limits, which if I go to my settings here and scroll up, that'll be all these max travels are 400. That way if I type in anything more than 400, it'll throw an error. I can also enable my hard limits, which if I had my limit switches board connected, I would definitely want to do that. And then you can also invert your limit pins if you are not using our boards. You could invert it however you want. You could also enable homing. Of course, if you have your limit pins, you'll want to enable homing. You can then set a homing direction of which way you want your axes to go, your homing feed rate cycle, your seek rate, the debounce, how long it has to hit the limit sensor to know it. It's preset when the ready motion goes to you and should work perfectly if you're using our boards. And then how far you want your axes to go off of the home position. So you have a lot of settings here you could just change real easy. And there you go, that is just a quick, or pretty much an overview of the user interface. I'll get in more detail of setting these offsets and different things of just having this on here. A lot of people get confused, which is using G10 versus using G92.